All right, I know that we are keeping you from coffee, so we're going to keep the energy up here, and we're going to turn it right over to Tanya to get us started.
All right. Hi. Thank you, Lana, for having me here today.
Of course, thank you
and
for
thank you,
being
Lotame. So I'm going to talk to you in terms of the advertiser perspective, in terms of targeting, and specifically about interest targeting. So I'm going to just first start to introduce myself. There we go. So I'm Tanya Coss, and I started at IBM about 3 years ago as a paid media specialist, specifically at the corporate office in New York here. And I, about a year ago, took on the role of audience application lead. So what that means is I help the various marketing teams, which we have over 5,000 marketers around the world because we're a massive company, with specifically how to apply audience data in their strategy. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some communications that I've gotten from various companies throughout the last few weeks. So just a few. An influencer marketing sales email, I got a data visualization software trial offer, and a few agency job opportunities. So kind of these are companies who really think that I'm the right person, probably from my job title and from my the account that I work on, the company that I work with. So let's dig into that a little bit. So the influencer marketing sales team probably thought, hey, she has paid media in her title, she's got money to spend. So actually, I don't have money to spend. I'm in the corporate group, so I work with the business units who have the money to spend. And I tell them, you know, like, hey, I think you should do this, but it's really up to them to make the decision on how to spend their money. When I'm actually looking at is overarching paid media strategy and specifically trying to crack that nut on multi-touch attribution specifically for B2B. So what should I really be doing and what are the best practices there? For that data visualization software trial offer, they probably saw I'm from IBM and that I'm not a subscriber, but I am not a data visualization person at all. I'm not a data person that way. I leave that up to my analytics friends over here at Audience Analytics at IBM. And what I'm more focused on is strategy for audience work. So I'm looking at cross-enterprise account-based marketing tactics, and specifically HPE has been talking about what they've been doing, and I love it, and I wish we could do something like that too, and I'm really focused on that. And then agency job opportunities. I'm flattered that people want me, but I'm not looking for a job. I love working for IBM, and I specifically love how it supports me as a working mom. And instead of being flagged like on LinkedIn as a job seeker, I'm trying to figure out why my son is farting purple. It literally looks like Barney sneezed in his diaper. But it turns out that what happens, and it's totally normal according to the internet and my doctor, about him eating grapes at every meal. So it just happens apparently. But that is to say that these companies kind of missed the mark with me, and why is that? Well, they just kind of took my name, my title, and where I work, and made an assumption about me. But we have the ability to use data to tell us what is really the person is really looking for and what that user is looking for. So and that's B2B with our B2B marketers really are like, I know that ideal buyer that I want. I know that I want this job role in this company to buy my cloud solution. But in B2C, we have a specific demographic that we're trying to hit, and we want to just go after them. But really, we want to go beyond that and go beyond just the profile of the person. So interest data, we really lean on interest data a lot. And these are specific B2B examples, but this really applies for B2C companies as well. So third-party topic interest, third-party product interest, we work with various vendors through Lotame, partners with Lotame, to get that data of external interest. So what are they looking at in terms of technology, in terms of what they want to buy? Third-party product interest? Are they looking at reviews, or are they downloading specific support materials about specific products? And then our first-party page topic, interest data is our own data. So we have like millions of pages, web pages on IBM.com, and we use our AI solution, Watson Natural Language Understanding, to be able to decipher all the tech jargon that we have on our pages and figure out what people are actually interested in. So we really harness that, and we use Lotame to collect that data as well. So how do we actually apply this data? We do it, of course, in paid media targeting. And when we actually use the data in paid media targeting, we see 2 to 3 times more engagement just using the job title and accounts that our marketers really think is the winning recipe. But it's really the interest data really harnesses what we want the user to do, and that's engage in our site. But we go beyond that. The interest data is available for us to layer onto our CRM and actually use that to segment out our contacts. And so we could just blast all of the people with an email that have responded to our registration forms. But really, when we segment it out on their interests and align our message to that, we actually do a much better job at getting them to open and respond to our emails. And then sales enablement. We have our team here putting in the data to our sales tools, and we enable the sales teams to actually have better conversations with our clients because they're actually looking at what they're interested in and putting that in market. So that's all to say that if you are an advertiser, make sure that you're using interest data as a part of your marketing playbook. And make sure that you leverage it across not just that first touch point, but also beyond that and all your customer interactions.
Okay. I love that. Thank you so much. We're going to pass it on over to Jeff, and I'd love to get your perspective.
Cool. Thank you guys for having me. I was really excited to talk about this topic. The reason why is because at Politico, the core of how we think about any growth is our ability to engage, understand, and activate the Politico influencer audience. And so as I kind of take you through this short presentation, I want to give you guys a little bit better understanding of what does that mean as far as like an editorial strategy, how does audience alignment kind of activate around that, and then what do we do as far as kind of, or what have we done as far as kind of going through some challenges that we've had to address as far as data insights and audience insights, and then what are some kind of use cases that we've utilized to understand our influencer audiences, but to take that information and really grow what we can do at Politico to provide kind of that core competency that we have at Politico. And so just to take a step back, Politico, we are a global media brand that talks about, or that focuses on the intersection of politics, policy, and power. But what does that mean at Politico? So our goal is truly to provide utility-based journalism for these users that work in government, that work in the policy sector, but with the idea behind that we are making them better at their 9-to-5 job. And so they are reading Politico, they need to read Politico to go about their workplace. And so kind of that understanding, though, is that we need to reach these policymakers. We need to reach people that work in government, and we need to reach people that work in nonprofits, NGOs, things of that sort. One of kind of the best ways I like to describe this, and it's something that is very interesting to me, it's something, so I've been at Politico for about 5 years now, and I was in a meeting with our editor, a guy named John Harris, who's a brilliant man, and he said something that was just incredibly impactful to me, and he said, he was talking about how we go about our editorial strategy. And so if we have an energy policy reporter and they're writing content that's specific to regulation, let's say the Department of Energy, and there are people that work on that regulation, but and within a division, and those, let's say 20 people read that content, that's successful journalism for us. That's kind of an interesting thing to think about. It's kind of, for us, it's kind of an inspirational thing to think about as we look at our journalism and that kind of value, that core value, that we just need to know that we are reaching the right type of user. And to me, that kind of goes against a lot of what we've heard in this industry, where you need to chase traffic and you need to go about and find users that really don't meet kind of that really aren't part of that core competency of, for us, what kind of that value add of Politico and that reporting that we're providing to our editorial, or that value add that we're providing to the editorial news journalism. And so our goal when it comes to our editorial content is to make sure we're hitting the right users. And so kind of in saying that, though, it's a little bit more of a harder issue to address than kind of what, just providing content, pushing it out there, and making sure you're hitting the right user. And so as we go about this process, we need to make sure that we are really doing the right type of influencer measurement. And so as we look at development at Politico, obviously it starts with a kind of original market research. And then what is that core audience we're trying to reach? How does editorial strategy align around that? And then what does that product development look like? Audience engagement, and then one of obviously the most important things is what does a business development strategy look like as well? The thing is though, really understanding that is something that's a little bit more complicated. And so as we think about data across Politico, for years, it was kind of siloed in a number of different departments. And so what I mean by that, you have marketing, you have editorial, you have technology, you have product. And they all had their different kind of vendors in areas where they were utilizing data to make decisions. But our goal at Politico was to make sure that as we kind of look at information, we are utilizing it across departments and we're making informed decisions. And so to do that, and this is something that's taken a little bit of time, and we've really gotten better at this over the last couple years, is that we really kind of had to solve for three connecting components. It's how are we doing data collection across Politico, how are we utilizing that to drive the right type of audience insights, and then what does that mean as far as audience activation? And this is probably a slide I could easily spend 30 minutes on, but just kind of quickly, this is something that we've invested as far as data collection and really kind of building a universal data hub and making sure that we're mapping data across information that was originally siloed in different departments, but making sure that we're mapping the right type of information so we can gather the right type of audience insights, so we can know how influencers are reading our content, and then we can drive business development decisions. And so maybe an example of this would be like, if Bank of America is looking to work with us and they know they need to advertise around financial regulation policy, well, we need to make sure that we are hitting financial influencers and make sure that they are marketing to the right users. And so our ability to go about and doing that and working with companies like Lotame and aggregating data in the right way to make sure we're hitting those influencer audiences is so important to how we think about our strategy. And so kind of a use case of this and how we think about that core competency at Politico is something that we've done over the last really 3 to 4 years, is what we thought about our state expansion and kind of more of a national expansion, but really at the state level of taking that core competency, we report on very specific policy verticals so that editorial strategy stays the same. We are hitting the same type of influencers at the state level that need this content to do utility, or need this content because it provides them their ability to really, within that utility journalism, to go about and do their jobs. And then align that with products to make sure that we can work with our partners that they are hitting those right type of users. And so, kind of, I think a perfect way to look at that is kind of what we've done, and I've taken the screen grab from, I think it was last week, from our California Politico page, is you have, for example, you have energy regulation within California. You have BP that's aligning corporate social responsibility around kind of what they're doing as far as energy initiatives. And then we are aligning that with other marketing brands that we go about, for example, our newsletter, which is our Playbook newsletter in California, which is our marquee newsletter. And then advertising services and making sure that we are hitting the right user within that influencer audience so we can make sure that we are the best type of marketers on behalf of our clients. And so we've taken that model and expanded that out nationally. So we're in 7 different states right now. We have Playbook authors in those 7 states, and we've expanded that also within the EU. So about 2 years ago, Politico EU was voted the number one influencer publication within Brussels. And really with that idea that we've never gotten away from our core competency. How do we take utility policy-based journalism, apply it to an audience that needs that information, and then create a marketing strategy around that? Cool.
Thank you. I love that focus. All right, we'll turn it over to Raph.
Hello. So first off, who here in the audience is from the agency side? Oh, good amount. So I obviously represent the agency side here. And what I'm going to present is a case study. I can't name the client, but it's a very niche audience, couple of million people in the United States. And this presentation is all about how do you move people from awareness to purchase, and what's the data set and the technology stack behind it. So it all really starts with the consumer journey. So a bunch of us get into the room and we look at the consumer journey from awareness all the way through purchase and post-purchase, and that's that's the stuff you see in green. In orange are all the moments that happen within each part of that journey, whether they're hurdles or moments that we can intercept them with. And in yellow are all the messages or creative that we use. Underneath that, you'll also see the emotions and state of mind underneath the consumer journey. So the reason why I'm sharing this is because all this is about pixeling. So you pixel every step of the journey, you pixel all the creative, and that's what allows us to do the work that we do, which I'll show you next. So with regards to the media, it's a full funnel approach. So we really look at driving awareness through all the tactics that make sense. So whether that's TV, connected TV, addressable TV, radio, et cetera, what have you, video. But the trick there is obviously bringing those audiences in to the digital space. And the way that we do that is through the device graph for CTV, vanity URLs for all our TV spots, using the Lotame pixel across all of our creative and media, and also adding 3PA and MTA in there, so multi-touch attribution, third-party ad serving. So we're collecting data across all of our awareness tactics, and that way we can move these audiences into the middle funnel, which is all about consideration. So once we have these audiences built in our DMP, we then create these digital campaigns that are all geared around them. And what we then do is serve them very targeted ads that have interactivity in them. So if you think about the video actually has a lot of creative value exchange content in there. So does the digital media creative. We're pixeling all of that as well. So as we pixel, we're learning more things about this audience. Hopefully they convert, right? But if they don't convert, we start the retargeting process. So the website is tagged as well with Lotame as their DMP and all the other tagging that we do. And from there, we're forming even more information. So if they don't convert, we're starting to do some dynamic messaging with them. So ads are now dynamic. We know a lot more about this audience based on the type of sites they've been on, the content that they've engaged with on their banner ads, video ads, what have you, and also what they've done on the website before they've converted or if they haven't converted. The last thing that we do is we actually pixel the lead form and actually tag each part of the lead form as well. So every field in the lead form is tagged. What it allows us to do is not only create lookalikes from people who convert, but actually segment those lookalikes. So a lot of these converters aren't the same. Some are better than others based on what they answer. And so that's the process of kind of looking at who your best customers are so you can create the best lookalike audiences from them. This is the machine that we use. So obviously we have a DMP, we have a DSP, and we have the dynamic creative optimization. So all the data, again, is loaded into our DMP. We create audiences there. We cut and slice them all day long, serve them across all channels that are applicable, and then serve them the best creative and message based on what we know about that audience. So the creative can change dynamically based on everything we know about that audience. And so you'll see on the next slide, what I love about that is this. So if you look at the endemic websites, and you like this from the Politico side, very expensive. So it's like $40, $30 to $40, $1,000 to be on these endemic sites. This is a direct response client. We're supposed to convert these audiences. Now, what we found is on an endemic website, a lot of those audiences aren't there to convert. They're not there to really engage. They're there to read and they're to consume content. However, once we create audiences from them, and the goal for this whole client is around a $300 cost per conversion, their endemic sites were in the $500 to $600 range, but when we created audiences from them and retargeted them outside of those endemic sites, they were our best performing audience, because again, that shows you how clean the data is. So again, having solutions that make sense allow us to do those things. We would have probably optimized away from endemics if we didn't have that data. So this is our tech stack. So as you can see, it takes a village, a technology village to make things happen. A lot of people say, this is not the sexy part of advertising, but on our side, we do think it is. So there's a lot of things that we use to kind of make things happen, all the way from creating audiences, storing audiences, audience unification, MTA, so ensuring that we have attribution in place so we can stitch together each impression and give credit where it's due. And finally, the visualization piece. How do we show this data to our clients? So results, this is 3 years of working with this client. So we've increased sales from 250, increased sales from 250 to 1 billion, the company has. And again, our goal is to drive awareness that turns into conversion. And if we're focused just on the lower funnel, probably wouldn't have happened. Cost per leads down 32%. And awareness up 155%. So again, the machine works, and that's all I have.
Thank you so much. I think each of you has such a unique perspective. And I really want to talk about once you get to that lower funnel, when you're talking to the CIO that's ready to pull the trigger, when you're talking to the influencer who's ready to make that policy decision, or the consumer who's ready to purchase, you naturally get smaller and smaller as you come down the funnel. How do you guys go about engaging those really niche audiences? And are there any best practices when you always have that concern or challenge of limited scale?
Yeah, I'll start as the advertiser here. We're trying to get that specific CTO at the company. So really know what tactics you have in your arsenal and understand your scale and what's going to actually be effective. If you only have like 5 people that you're trying to reach, you probably just want to email them versus setting up a paid media campaign to get a banner ad in front of them. I mean, we know that that's not effective, but people sometimes want to throw money at an issue versus just kind of, do the right thing, which is just reach out. So I think it's making sure you understand the effects of each tactic that you have in your marketing wheelhouse and what is effective at what times for what level of scale.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for us, that's an interesting question because while scale is important, you obviously have to create a media plan off of it. Really kind of our ability to identify policy influencers and then go into the market and really create a business value proposition against that is really kind of the core of how we think about growth at Politico. And so if we have an editorial strategy where we know where we are, that these users are reading our content, we can align that with a business development strategy. And so, it kind of goes back to, if Bank of America is looking to advertise around financial regulation, there's only so many people that do that. And so our ability to attract that audience and market to that audience, it really allows us to expand what we can as far as the business value. And so it's one of those things where we do look at these small pockets of people that we look to advertise to within these policy verticals, and then how do we align that around content? And then what does that actually mean as far as product growth? And so different types of influencers are reading our content differently. And so if we can go to our marketers and explain, this is an influencer that you need to track based on whatever policy vertical you're looking to advertise around, we know it aligns with this product and they're reading this stuff, we can create that business value proposition around that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for us, it's really using all the different data and tactics that are out there to find that niche audience. So whether that's first party, second party, third party, or are you doing contextual targeting, search retargeting, what have you, driving that traffic to the website and even using tactics such as TV to drive traffic and drive search volume. And then, as I mentioned, pixeling the website. So as you drive that traffic, pixel the website, pixel the lead form, and create lookalikes so you can find more people like them.
Absolutely. And I think you guys teed this next one up perfectly. When we're thinking about the right content and the right messaging, right? I, for one, think it's incredibly important to get the right messaging in front of a user. What are your kind of best practices or some chief learnings that you have for testing different content strategies to find the right message to get that user to take the next step?
Yeah, so on our end, we make sure we infuse the data into our testing and personalization. So let's say, for example, we've used specific Lotame audiences that we've created for paid media. We make sure that the teams are also trying to filter that into their experience as well. So we have Optimizely in our testing and personalization engine at IBM, and we let them do A/B testing to see how those messages will do against those specific audiences. And it's really important to have that thread, because if it isn't there, then you're not speaking to your audience with the data that you have. It's just going to fall flat. You can't just have the same generic message that you just give to everyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for us, especially how we think about working with our brands. I mean, storytelling is such an amazing and a huge part of that. And so, our ability to really come off as consultants of how you can engage these users and do it with the right type of message and do messaging testing that really can attract, really kind of take that brand and kind of what they are looking to do as far as their storytelling and apply that to Politico is just such a key component to us. But, there's kind of that next level, and to make sure that we are doing the right type of A/B testing and that we're getting multiple creatives and that we're understanding how users are resonating with that messaging. And so kind of one component of that is, this is a big thing for us, and we've heard this for years, like the click-through rate doesn't really mean that much. And so, a big part of our component now is what we are doing with brands and how we are utilizing brand surveys and brand lift and brand recall surveys. That's how they are measuring success now. And so if we can't provide that measurement back to our clients, we haven't done the job. We haven't done the right job to really showcase why they need to be working with Politico.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and from our side, we really believe in creative testing. I mean, there was a couple years ago, we won this account and literally had 3 weeks to get it live. So all we could do was change the media plan and use the old creative from the other agencies. So we saw a 24% lift just by tweaking the media plan. When we were done with our creative, we loaded it into the same media plan and saw another 15% uptick. So there really is an importance in tying the creative with the media and the audiences that you're targeting. So for us, it's really being precise on what we're testing and understanding what the key variable is. So sometimes we'll make so much creative and load it in and not know exactly what's working. We just know these pieces of creative are performing really well. Take a step back, understand why it's performing well, make it a control, and then start testing little things that are different. And that way you can isolate the variable. So that's a key thing that we do. The other thing that we're doing is also obviously testing the form a lot and form placement and how many steps there are in the form. So it's really important to not just tweak the creative, but also look at the back end and optimize that as well.
Yeah, that's a great nuance. I'd say with the last couple of seconds we have, with all the changes in regulations, user habits, what do you think is going to be the biggest change or challenge in engaging those converters, decision makers, influencers in 2020 and maybe 3 to 5 years from now?
Well, I'm hopeful for all the data regulations that are out there, that it's having a conversation with our consumers of any type, that data is the currency that gives us what we get on the internet. So I am hopeful for better quality in terms of the users that we are getting, and our role as advertisers or as publishers is to make sure that we're being relevant to them. They've given us the information, let's give them what they want in terms of what they're looking for with that data. So I think that's really what we need to make sure we're really focused on, that we put the client first and make sure that we're speaking to them based on the data that they're giving us.
Yeah, and for Politico, there's a couple ways to answer that, but it's to stay within our core competency of providing utility journalism. And if we are going to do that in a way that allows people, or people are reading Politico because they need to go about doing their 9 to 5, we will continue to attract that audience. But we need to support that with everything else that happens in Politico. So we need to make sure we have the right data. We need to make sure we're doing the right tracking, but also doing it in a way that's GDPR compliant and CCPA compliant when we really truly understand those guidelines. But kind of that information, and for us, and I have no problem kind of saying this, it starts with the editorial value proposition and our ability to track that audience, but then to make sure we can really create that and generate products off of that we can then go out and market to our clients and make sure that they are hitting the right type of users with that right type of message. And so by allowing us to do that, by not getting away from that core competency of what Politico is, it'll allow us to continue to scale in this market.
Amazing.
Yeah, and we recently acquired a CRM company, so going back to, what's going to be important, I feel like being able to understand that first-party data and really collecting clean first-party data is key. And so CRM is going to be very important in how we move that data across our tech stack. The value exchange, you talked about value proposition, so it's a key thing we believe in. So why would you give us your data? It's because we are giving you something that's of value. So you're either getting educated or you're getting entertained by the content. So as long as we can give that in our messaging, the value exchange, I think we'll be okay.
Amazing. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out today. Please give it up for our wonderful panel.
Thank you.